So we'll dig a little bit further in here before I explain, and best I can, how this works. But let's just look at something real quick, just as a reminder, or actually let's just watch something real quick. If I play this animation right now, keep an eye on him. Now I'm about to click my button here, and he's gone, and then everything works just as before. And now that should make sense because he only exists on one frame right here. And in the very next frame, there's an F7, so he disappears. But the question that we'll get to is how can he possibly be moving if he only has one frame? And I think that'd be best explained if we do a side-by-side comparison of the movie clip and the graphic like we have set up here. And before we go further on those, let's just look at one thing real quick. Even though we can't see any movement of this movie clip, if you took my word, you would know that it still does its thing. And here it comes. So they look identical when we play the movie up until that point. Just unfortunately, no preview inside of the program. I'm going to extend all this out here just a little bit. And then what we'll do is I'm going to stop the animation right here where I extended them out to. You know how to do that. Pause real quick if you need to. And whoops. And of course make sure that you write the action in the right place. Not that it jumps back frames. So you have to do the F7. And I'm going to add a bit of text here in the text layer. F7 to stop that. And I want it to show up right where the movie stops. So I just did F7 there, F7 there. Let's bring the text in from the grade sheet. And I placed this off of the left just a little bit because in just a second we're going to make a little like menu button here to take us back to the beginning. But that's what we have previewed in here. And let's go ahead and preview this for real and see if we can figure out the logic behind movie clips. So again, we just have one frame at the very beginning and this guy is playing. When we go into this part of the movie, there they look identical. Here we encounter our stop and this one keeps going. So the true difference is that a movie clip is timeline independent. As long as you give a movie clip a place to be. So here's our movie clip and here's its place to be. It exists starting here and lasts until here. As long as it is represented on the main timeline, we will see it. And even if the main timeline comes to a halt, it'll continue to do its thing because it is truly timeline independent. So what happens is the nature of a timeline is to just keep going, right? We saw that on the main timeline. If we make a movie and we play it and we don't do any actions, it'll just keep on playing. Well, an animated graphic symbol can't keep playing unless the main timeline is playing. But an animated movie clip can just keep doing its thing even though the main timeline is stopped. Let's go and grab that last item that we'll need from the Illustrator document. And it's this thing right here. I'm going to do a Command-C to copy, and I'm going to paste it in to animate. And I want to make a separate layer for this because I want it to show up essentially starting at the second frame. There's no need for it to be on the first frame because what that's going to be is our menu bar. And I'm sure I don't have to tell most of you what that is. It's known as a hamburger menu. You see it on all kinds of apps. It's usually up in the top left corner, and it's become the standard for letting people know that that is a way back to the main menu. So if we go to frame 2 here, we can't use the buttons layer, at least I don't think, because I think other things show up there. Oh no, actually the only buttons are these on the first frame. So on the second frame, we can go ahead and paste that in there. So I'll do a file, and, or I'm sorry, edit and a paste, and then we will create a, once we get our choices here, we will create a symbol with this. The symbol that we're going to want, though, is going to be a button. You could either resize it before or after you made it a symbol. I just went ahead and did it ahead of time because I figure if I ever have to drag out another copy, it's probably easier if it's close to the right size. So hamburger and button. And just an FYI, while we're in here, you can see that you have a choice of where the registration point gets put in your symbols, and that has to do with if you need to move them later, or like move them with precision, like what the X and Y coordinates are. So that's its registration point. That's just an FYI. Inside the buttons timeline, we probably are realizing that that's going to be a little too faint. And if we click on it and go to properties, we can see that we don't have any options here to change the color. But if I click on it or double click on it, now it brings me into the group because it was a grouped object from Illustrator. But now I could pick a different color for it. And so maybe I want something that's pretty darn close to the original color, but at least staying in that range. But what I can do is select that color like you just saw with the eyedropper, come in here, click on the brightness, and maybe bring the brightness back so it kind of stays in that family of colors, because I don't want this to really stick out either. Then what I can do is I'm going to only change the overstate, so I'll do a F6, F6, then I'll do an F7 so that I can increase the size. And while I'm there on the F7, go ahead, turn on my onion skinning, make a little bit bigger box so that this is the area where the mouse has to be to turn the button on. Then we'll go back to frame 2, turn the onion skinning off, and notice that I've clicked on it enough times to get inside the group again. And then here, that's just an indicator when the mouse is over it to let you know that it is indeed interactive. So I'll go back to the white color, and if I preview this in a movie, you can see that we have the interactivity there, and mine disappears right there, so I have to troubleshoot that, which will just be a matter of scrubbing the timeline here until I see where it disappears. There it is right there. So apparently there was an F7 placed there at one time. So easiest way to get rid of those is to right click and go to clear keyframe, and let's just keep going and see if there's any more like that. Yeah, looks like it stopped there, but it's not because of an F7, it's just because it was never extended out to the very end. So we'll just go out to the very end. Now, let's try this little key right here to take us there quicker. That key there. Okay, and in the very last frame here, we'll just do a F5. And then it's just a matter of programming the button, which you probably know how to do by now. However, the programming of this button could potentially be a little bit different than everything we've done. Now, you could put a flag there in that very first frame and do it just like this, and you could even actually use go to and play, because what will happen is the stop at the first frame will stop it anyway. But I would think it would be better to program it, learn how to do it right. So all I'm going to do is copy and paste this, Command C, couple clicks, Command V, and then I'm going to change a few things, starting with copying my instance name onto the clipboard, pasting that right there, And then we need to change, well, let's just change the name of this so it makes sense to click and go to a frame and stop. Remember, this is made up stuff here anyway, but it has to match that. And I'll paste that in right there so that that and that is exactly the same. And then I'm going to go from memory. I believe it's just instead of go to and play, it's go to and stop. And I'll know if I got it right by the fact that it'll stay blue. Like watch this. If I got it wrong, it turns black because that's saying that that's something that's made up. But if I capitalize the S and get it right, that should work. Okay, so when I went to preview this in a browser, an error came up here. Now it's a little bit different one, and this really wouldn't help me decipher this, so I just had to go back into my first action, or my first frame of actions, and what I noticed was I accidentally told this to go to troubleshoot. And really what I want is for it to go to frame 1. Now I'm not sure why that would cause an error unless I've deleted troubleshoot, and when I triggered it, it caused the error. Well, that was not enough to fix it, so I will have to pause, or I'll stop this video for now and get back to you on the next one with the solution.